Chapter 41-41. Future General, you are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Huff huff. Liz panted heavily as she dropped to one knee. Her clothes were ragged and her body was covered in bruises. She never expected to win against Rebecca, but she at the very least expected to give her a good chase. But it turned out that the reality is indeed often disappointing. In front of absolute power, she could do nothing but yield in the end. No. She can't give up. She can't be a disappointment to her mother. With shaking legs supporting her body, she got herself to stand. In front of her was the flaxen-haired girl who bears the family name of Wilburn. "Why don't you just stay down?" Rebecca asked with an arched eyebrow. "Are you a masochist?" Karma, who was judging the match from the sidelines, couldn't help but shake her head. Rebecca had many chances to end this match, but she chose not to. From the looks of it, she was enjoying the miserable state of her opponent. Even though this training exercise was meant to turn students a little cold and help them handle their emotions in battle, Rebecca was just straight up cruel. She had no mercy. Even in Liz's beaten up state, she had no intentions of stopping or, for that matter, ending the match. Has she already killed? Karma thought while frowning her eyebrows. Just what is Star Super teaching his children? Liz, who was barely standing on her feet, lowered her stance a little and raised her hands in front of her face. In the next moment, her hands started glowing, and a pair of round energy gloves formed around her fists. "Come!" Liz shouted, challenging Rebecca to come at her. Rebecca did nothing but smirk viciously. That was enough to send chills down the spines of the students standing in the crowd. "Fine," Rebecca said before her feet lifted from the ground and her body started hovering in the air. "Does it hurt here now?" the med guy asked as he patted Sam's shoulder. "No," Sam curtly replied, irritation clearly visible in his voice. He was in the academy's medical room sitting on a hospital cot with his back straight while the med guy kept on inspecting him for any hidden injuries. The medical room was big with many cots lined up in 2 rows. Curtains were separating them, creating a private chamber for every patient. Although the doctor had already healed his injury, the med guy still kept on pestering Sam. "I should kill him," Sam thought. "Bruh. You need to train your patients," the voice in Sam's mind commented. "I know," replied Sam irritatingly. "I guess you are fine now. Well then, I'll be going." The med bow did a short bow before leaving the curtain chamber. "Ha!" Sam breathed a sigh of relief as he finally got his personal space back. "Honestly speaking, you were amazing out there." The voice in his head praised Sam. "Yeah right," Sam rolled his eyes, not believing the praise to be genuine. "No, really. I have known you since your birth. I know how pathetic you were in close combat since you never had to fight. I mean, for you a thought is enough to kill your opponent. Dude, shut up, you're boring me." In short, your close combat has improved a lot. After hearing that, Sam couldn't help but sigh again before falling back on the cot. "Yeah, but I'm still not strong enough," Sam said dejectedly. For the first time in his life, he was feeling weak. Up until now, if he had to kill anyone, all he needed was a thought. So when for the first time he was taking the close combat seriously without the use of his main ability, Sam was seeing his own shortcomings for the first time. "Hey! I got an idea." At that moment, the voice in his head shook Sam out of his sulking. "What?" "So you can experience others' memories, right? It's not my forte, but yeah, memory manipulation is possible." "Why?" "Well, how about this, you take someone else's memories and make them yours. Like a martial arts expert. If you take a martial arts expert's memories, wouldn't that automatically make you a martial arts expert too?" With a blank face and a ridiculed expression, Sam spoke up. "And what good will that do to me instead of creating a second personality inside me?" What the voice in his head suggested wasn't impossible for Sam to do. However, memories make up a person's personality. If Sam were to inherit someone else's memories, then he will also inherit the personality that comes with it. Not only that was too much work to do for too little reward, but he also doesn't want a second voice to invade his head. He was already fed up with the one he already had inside his head. Tisk, fine, sometimes I think you are just here to amuse yourself with my troubles. Ha ha ha. You caught me. Right when Sam was talking to his inner voice, a dull groan of someone who was in pain resounded throughout the medical room. Bark. Frowning, Sam got up from the cot that he was laying on and drew the right side curtains sideways. Behind the curtains was a light red-haired boy laying on his bed inside his curtain chamber. He was Lucas Redwing. Arga haha, his eyes were shut tight but he seemed awake. From the looks of it, he was in pain due to an injury that the doctor didn't notice. Oi, Lucas, you awake? Sam asked the obvious question. What does it look like, shithead? Lucas replied irritatingly before starting groaning in pain again. Arga haha. Shithead. Did this bastard insult you right now? Kill him. What about working on my patients? Yeah, my bad. I should be guiding you to the right path. Torture him instead. Calm down. It's your job to keep me calm, why am I handling your temper? Arg. What are you standing there for, shithead? Go call the fucking doctor who treated me. Lucas yelled, his vile usage of words contrasting his pretty appearance. His choice of words and his appearance were so in contrast that even Sam was stunned. Lucas had a small triangular face that can make anyone want to instinctively protect him, he had a thin figure and unkempt light red hair. But to think such a beautiful person can spout such vulgar words. Well, appearances can be deceiving. Sam remarked in his head. Didn't you listen to me, you dumb fuck? Lucas yelled again. However, his rantings and wailings were getting under Sam's skin. Why the fuck are you standing there, you fucker? I said go call the fucking doc. Before Lucas could complete his cursing, Sam's hand grabbed his head and shoved him down the bed he was lying on, shutting his mouth in the process. Lucas tried to scream but his voice was muffled due to Sam's hand on his mouth. With that last muffled scream, in a desperate attempt to free himself, Lucas activated his ability. Shush now. At that command, Sam's eyes glowed in a violet hue. When Lucas's gaze met Sam's, his panic instantly vanished. He was suddenly unnaturally calm even though a boy was shoving his head down. His sudden calmness even surprised Lucas himself. Why the fuck am I so calm? Move. Move my body. Move. He tried to command his body to move but no matter how much he tried, his body wasn't his to control anymore. Fear instantly struck Lucas. He was untouchable all his life. No matter how powerful a person he's up against, no one can touch Lucas without his consent. If you do try to touch him without him permitting you, the force you'll put to touch him will be amplified tenfold before force will be directed at you, ripping your hand off the socket. However, this boy was not only touching him, he was overpowering him. And no matter how much Lucas wills it, he couldn't activate his ability. With the sudden fear of the unknown, came panic. This boy was not normal. Seeing him calm down, Sam took back his hand and displayed a benign smile, completely different from the dangerous aura he was emitting earlier. Now then, since you calmed down and all, I've been meaning to talk to you, Sam said. Can we? He asked for permission while knowing full well what the answer would be. Why? Yes, just don't hurt me. Lucas drooped his gaze down. His earlier display of pride and arrogance was nowhere to be seen. With a dumbfounded expression, Sam frowned before speaking. Why would I ever hurt my future general? Information available on memory manipulation, power of mind manipulation and biology manipulation. Users can control memories of themselves and others. This allows them to modify, fabricate, suppress, influence, repair, restore, erase, detect, and view them. They can change memories to confuse, wipe away certain memories to cause amnesia, discern and provoke nostalgia, and enter the victim into a psychic vision, replaying their memory. Memories make up personality, so needless to say the users can manipulate the personality of their targets too. They can also absorb their target's memories, but this might come at the risk of absorbing the personality of their target too. Chapter 42-42 Unraveling Mysteries. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Why would I ever hurt my future general? Silence followed after those words from Sam. Dread silence. It took a minute for Lucas to reply to what Sam had said. General, what do you mean? Lucas asked with a frown. To be perfectly honest, he was scared and on edge, or at least he wanted to be, but for some reason all his mind could do was stay calm. His guard was completely down, as if his brain was refusing to register the black-haired boy in front of him as an enemy. His own calmness in this situation puzzled him more than anything. Blinking his eyes a couple of times, Sam spoke. What do I mean? Exactly what I said. I've decided that you, Lucas Redwing, will serve as the general to my demon army. The match was over after a 15 minutes long one-sided fight. Rebecca could have finished the match whenever she wanted, but she chose to make her opponent suffer. After the match ended, Liz left on a stretcher while Rebecca's dress was drenched in blood. Every student, strong or weak, couldn't help but shudder at the thought of going against Rebecca. She was a monster, and everyone, including one of the teachers, Karma, witnessed her monstrosity today. They witnessed the true power of a Wilburn. However, what's more terrifying was the fighting spirit of the girl who faced such a monster. Liz Fireforged. Not much is known about her, but everyone knew that her mother, Tanya Fireforged, who had a stealth ability, died a few months ago. Her mother was killed right here in this very city, and it is suspected that she was killed by the same villain who killed Rose Bluespring. In the records, Liz was mentioned to be an A. rank potential. With her versatile ability to conjure pure energy, she is indeed strong. But no one expected her to last for so long against Rebecca. Till the end she fought without surrendering. A true hero, but unfortunately fighting spirit can't give you victories. After emerging victorious from a one-sided fight that she dragged herself, Rebecca proudly headed back to her spot. What the hell was that, Rebecca? Furious, Anthony confronted Rebecca by blocking her path. What was what? Rebecca asked, playing dense. Did I do something wrong by winning, brother? Anthony furiously gritted her teeth before dragging Rebecca to the side. Let go. Feeling Anthony's grip tightening by the second, Rebecca voiced her displeasure before shaking his hand off. What's wrong with you, brother? She asked, irritation clearly visible in her tone. What's wrong with me? Are you seriously playing victim here? Why did you drag the fight? Anthony's eyes lit up in a golden shine as he clenched his fists to control his emotions. Seeing that, Rebecca rolled her eyes. That's it. That's why you are reacting like this. That's it. What do you mean by, that's it? You could have won any time. Anthony was about to continue his rant until he remembered something and stopped. After a brief pause, he opened his mouth to speak up again. Are you experiencing your impulses again? Those words fell on Rebecca like a bomb. All the emotions she was holding back broke out. The anger, the sorrow, and the frustration, everything she had tried so hard to suppress resurfaced again. What the fuck, Anthony? You don't trust me now, huh? With her face red in anger, she eyed her brother with hostility. If only looks could kill a man. Before Anthony could reply to that, she continued. No, I'm not experiencing a fucking impulse, Anthony, and if I was, then that girl would have been dead. In fact, everyone here would have been dead. Instantly realizing that he had made a mistake, Anthony raised his hand slightly to assure her. Sister, I believe you. He said. It's just that, ever since you've returned from being kidnapped, you are acting strange. What he said wasn't a lie. Anthony really was worried about his sister. Whenever he tried to ask about her kidnapper, Rebecca would just switch the topic or ignore him completely. Their father, Arthur Star Super Wilburn, was off on a mission, so Anthony couldn't help but get worried. Arthur had already warned Anthony that the progenitor had returned. But his abilities don't work on Wilburns. That means there could only be two reasons for why Rebecca was refusing to cooperate. First, she really is in the dark about who her kidnapper was. Which is the most unlikely scenario, but Anthony was still praying it to be true. Second, she is willingly operating under her kidnapper, who is most likely the progenitor. That also means that not only Rebecca has now betrayed the Hero Alliance, but she's also an enemy. Needless to say, Anthony was hoping that the second scenario turns out to be false. Rebecca, who finally noticed her brother's worried and concerned face, calmed herself down. She had been through a lot. Just a few more days and she will successfully execute her plan of assassinating Star Super. And after that, she will finally be able to live a happy life with her brother that she had always dreamed of. Bringing her hand to Anthony's face, Rebecca lovingly caressed his cheeks. Anthony was taken aback by her sudden change in behavior, but he didn't resist. Rebecca's cheeks flushed as she finally decided to speak her heart. "I can do anything for you, brother. I can even make a deal with a demon. Everything I did and about to do is for you, for us." Confused and not knowing what she meant, Anthony was about to ask her to clarify. But before he could do so, Rebecca turned around and started walking to the student crowd. "But now is not the time for you to know," she said before walking away and leaving Anthony standing there alone. "What do you think, Rick?" a 6 feet 9 inches tall man asked. The man had flaxen hair and golden eyes. He was dressed in his superhero costume, which was a skin-tight golden and white suit with a golden cape. He also had a huge belt on his waist. It resembled a heavyweight wrestling championship belt and the letter S was inscribed on it. He was Star Super in his hero costume, and from the looks of it, he was inside something akin to a dungeon. Besides him stood the bald professor from Hero Academy, Rick Sanchez. Although his barrier ability isn't really needed, Star Super still brought him along as his knowledge on beasts was practically unparalleled. Of course, that wasn't the only case. Rick had studied the progenitor's history all his life. So if anyone in this world was the most knowledgeable about the progenitor besides Star Super, then it was Rick. Right now they were standing in a dungeon that Kale, the progenitor, used as his dwelling during his last few days before his life was claimed by Star Super. He used to guard this dungeon with ferocious beasts that he muted himself with his ability. Some of those beasts managed to survive and are still alive and dwell in this very dungeon. They don't go to the outside world since their master is dead. They reproduce here, feed on their children or let their children feed on them and die here in this dungeon. Inside the dungeon they live like the beasts they are, but at least they don't have to fear extinction. That was until today. Because today Star Super suddenly showed up knocking at their front door. Within a few minutes, Star Super cleared this whole dungeon of any life that had resided within it earlier. And right now, in front of Star Super was laying a mutated beast carcass. A beast whose ancestors' biology was altered by the progenitor. The beast was a humanoid tiger with 2 saber teeth protruding out from his upper jaw. There were many of them laying lifeless around Star Super, but this one's dead body was relatively in better shape. After waiting for a few seconds, Star Super repeated his question, this time clearly irritated. "Oi. Document." I asked, "What do you think about it?" Rick, who was in a daze, was shaken out of his thoughts when Star Super's voice fell in his ears. I think about what again?" Stuttering in half awe and half shock, the bald professor asked. For a moment after hearing that question, Star Super began questioning himself when he thought bringing this bald man along was a good idea. After massaging his temple for a bit and dismissing any thoughts about leaving Rick here and flying off, Star Super repeated his question for the third time with a little rephrasing. What do you think about this beast that I killed? Star Super asked, tell me anything that you think can be useful. Ah, okay. Rick answered instantly, these monsters are made to protect this dungeon. At first one would think that's because the progenitor used to dwell here, but then why are they reproducing now when the progenitor is clearly dead? After frowning over his words, Star Super spoke with his interest peaked, elaborate. Chapter 43-43. Dwelling of the Demon King. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Elaborate, crossing his arms around his chest, Star Super said with an intrigued look. Taking a deep breath, Professor Rick began to explain. You see, Mr. Arthur, the progenitor, as you may already know, had the ability to manipulate biology. With his ability, he mutated thousands of animals and humans alike and created his own army known as the Demon Army. He mutated these tigers to act as his guards. It would take at least 6. No, 10 SS ranks to kill one, but you killed them all alone. Truly you are such a marvel. Cutting in between, Star Super spoke. Rick, you can be my fanboy later, first give me your analysis. Rick, who was looking at Star Super with sparkling eyes earlier, let out a dry cough before nodding and continuing. Yeah, so as I was saying, with his ability he created these beasts to guard this dungeon. But the thing is, he made these beasts loyal. After letting out that much, Rick took a short pause to let that all sink in. But Star Super only frowned. From the looks of it, Star Super had no idea where Rick was going. Letting out a disappointed sigh at the dumbness of his childhood hero, Rick continued to elaborate. You see, the minds of these beasts made by the progenitor don't function as the minds of normal beasts or animals. These beasts don't have feelings and a mind that can think about themselves. With anticipation, Rick took another pause. He hoped that this much explanation was enough to clarify his point to Star Super. However, contrary to his expectations, Star Super had a blank face. He couldn't understand where Rick was trying to go with this. Face-palming and filled with disappointment, Rick clearly spoke his mind. The progenitor created these creatures to be loyal to him. These creatures had just one task, be loyal to their master. However, their master, the progenitor, is dead. Rick said before taking a deep breath. Despite the fact that their master is dead, these creatures kept on reproducing. Why? They shouldn't be able to think for themselves, then why were they trying to save their species that was created by the progenitor? Finally, at those words, Star Super eyes widened. Seeing that, Rick smirked and continued. Yes, they didn't keep their species alive to save their species from extinction. They kept their species alive because they can still feel the connection to their master. In simple words, they kept their species alive by reproducing till now, not to save them but to serve their master. Before Rick could speak further, Star Super spoke up. Are you saying that? Yes, I'm saying that I think your guess is correct. I think the progenitor is alive. The Demon King has returned. Nodding like a spring doll, Rick announced. Touching his chin, Star Super began pondering over Rick's words. What the bald professor had said was indeed true. Star Super knew that these beasts didn't possess a mind that can think for themselves. That was part of the reason why he left this dungeon alone up until now. He thought that the beasts would die in a few years. Contrary to his expectations, he heard the news about the sighting of a saber-toothed humanoid tiger around this area. At first, he dismissed the news as fake. However, he still decided to check the area in the end. And here he found that the tigers that the progenitor created were indeed alive. And if Rick's guess was correct and they were keeping their species alive to serve their master again, then that means the progenitor is indeed alive as he had speculated. Roar. Shaking him out of his thoughts was the roar of a tiger. Rick, who was standing beside Star Super, instantly ran behind him like a child hiding behind his father. Shifting his gaze to the left where the roar came from, Star Super saw a humanoid tiger with 2 saber-tooth protruding out from his upper jaw. Roar. Another deafening roar followed before the saber-toothed humanoid tiger rushed towards the man in a cape like a beast it was. Star Super, on the other hand, just stood there calmly, letting the tiger close distance as if it was not a threat at all. Rick clenched Arthur's cape with his body trembling in fear. Although he knew there was Star Super protecting him, Rick had always been a scaredy-cat. As soon as the tiger came into the striking range, it swung its claw at the man in the golden hero costume, intending to cut him in half. Thud. However, as soon as the tiger's claw clashed against Star Super's body, the tiger felt like it tried punching a mountain. According to Rick, a single saber-toothed humanoid tiger was enough to give 5 SS ranks a run for their money. But the same beast couldn't even make Star Super flinch. Sigh. Shaking his head, Star Super let out a sigh as if he was dealing with a pest. You should have run, those were the last words Star Super said before swinging his arm at the tiger's head. Swoosh, plush like a baseball bat to a watermelon. As soon as Star Super's arm struck the tiger's head, it exploded, unable to bear the force of the strike. Jerking his hand to get the blood off, Star Super spoke as if nothing happened. Right, so now that my suspicion has been turned into a fact, I just need to find that bastard and kill him again, that is if it's the same bastard. In truth, Star Super was certain that the progenitor had returned. Besides the circumstantial evidence, he also felt it in his gut. He knew that a change was coming and the world was about to be thrown into chaos once again. However, he had to make sure. And now that he has, all that's left is to find the progenitor. With determined eyes, Star Super, or rather Arthur Wilburn, took a deep breath. I will find you, progenitor. I will find you and kill you for what you or your kin did to my brothers. He said with determination and fury clearly visible in his voice. I will find you before you can hurt my world ever again. I will kill you before you can build your army of demons. General of what? Back in the medical room of the Academy City, Lucas was frowning over Sam's words. Oh, didn't you hear? I said, General of my demon army. Sam repeated his words again as if there was nothing wrong with it. Lucas was stunned, to say the least. By now he had already tried to activate his ability 1,000 times but each time his body refused. He was just sitting there listening to what Sam had to say. Didn't you understand? Should I explain myself? Sam tilted his head with arched eyebrows. Why? Yes, I don't understand, hesitatingly, Lucas replied. Without wasting a second, Sam started his monologue. You see, Lucas, your ability to manipulate vectors intrigued me the first time I saw you. At first, I thought about taking it for myself, but then I remembered, I'm alone. I need an army if I wish to achieve what I want, and what's an army without a general? So, I decided that you will serve me as my right-hand man. Rejoice. For it's an honor. If you comply with me, then I'll give you whatever you desire. However, if you don't, then I will just take your ability and give it to someone else, making them my general instead of you. Sam said those words as if it was the most natural thing in the world for him to say. Lucas was, in all honesty, taken aback by those words. He had two guesses in his mind about who the black-haired boy was. Either he was a maniac and just babbling nonsense, or he was really who Lucas was thinking him to be. Just to be sure, Lucas still voiced the question that he had in his mind. Who are you? He asked the black-haired boy. A smirk, more vicious than anything Lucas had seen in his entire life, formed on Sam's face. After a second of silence, which felt like an eternity to Lucas, the black-haired boy finally opened his mouth to speak. Me. I'm the current progenitor and the next demon king. Information available on demons. When referring to demons in this world, people mean the humans and animals that were mutated by the progenitor in the past and not the mythological demons. These mutated creatures were dubbed demons due to their horrific appearances. These creatures do not exist anymore, the last of them were saber-toothed humanoid tigers who have now been killed by Star Super 2. Mutation manipulation. the power to manipulate mutations. Power of biological manipulation. Variation of evolution manipulation. The user can cause and manipulate mutations, and changes in the sequence of an organism's genetic material, in self or other living beings. For example, a rat can be mutated into a ferocious beast. This power is the rawest and most powerful power of biology manipulation. This is the ability that the progenitor used to create his legions of demons in the past. Chapter 44-44. Innocent Demon. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The progenitor of demons, Demon King, or bringer of chaos. He had many titles but one name, a name that is not known to everyone, but his feats are infamous. Even after his death, not many have a will strong enough to call him by his name. Such was the man known as Kale Flazer. He was the one who threw the world into chaos. Demon King ascended to power and dominated the world, but in the end, he was defeated by the hero known as Star Super. There's no one who does not know this story. Now, the man known as the progenitor is just a tale of old. A villain who met his end. A bedtime story that mothers tell to their children at night when they refuse to sleep. And so, in this time and age, if someone comes forward and declares themselves to be that man, the world will just laugh at them. Ha ha ha. Oh ha ha ha. Ah ha ha ha. Lucas was no exception. He was laughing his ass off right now after hearing the black-haired boy claim himself to be the progenitor. You are the progenitor of demons. The one who brought chaos and threw the world into the dark ages. Ah ha ha ha. While Lucas was laughing as if he had just heard the funniest joke of the century, Sam was standing there in front of him with a blank face. He wasn't angry, no. Sam was surprised. He expected Lucas to quiver in fear and beg for his life after Sam's revelation, but instead, this boy was losing his mind laughing. For a moment, Sam doubted himself. Did I say something wrong? He thought. You are progenitor. Bwahahaha. No one is believing that with your innocent face, ha ha ha. Innocent face. Sam shrieked in his mind. Who the fuck is this guy calling innocent face? Ha 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 ha. The most deadly individual in the world, the self-proclaimed God. And he's calling you innocent face. Ha ha ha. Even the voice in his head couldn't help but laugh at Lucas' remark. Shut up, bitch. The last thing I want to hear right now is another laughing voice. Sam clicked his tongue. His face was flushed, half in anger and half in embarrassment. Sam only had to reveal his identity to two people in his life. First was Kiera. And she reacted exactly how Sam imagined her to react. She went into denial before panicking in anxiety. The second was Rebecca. Now, although she didn't beg for her life and sweat down in fear, she still was alarmed after knowing Sam's identity. But this boy. This light red-haired skinny boy. He had the audacity to laugh in front of a god. Sam was gritting his teeth in frustration. If it wasn't for his decision of making him his general, Sam would have already ripped his head off. Oh ho ho ah ha ha ha. Oh God. That was too funny. Should I just kill him? Thoughts about killing him started crossing Sam's mind before he dismissed them and decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. Lucas, calling out his name, Sam ceased the laugh of the light red-haired boy. What's so funny? Lucas had an "isn't that obvious" expression on his face. Of course, no one would believe some guy randomly claiming to be the progenitor. Scratching the back of his neck, Lucas spoke. Are you really serious? Do you really believe you are the progenitor? The one who threw the world into chaos all those years back? Lucas asked. Yes, Sam replied instantly before he began explaining. I mean, I'm not the same guy, I'm his descendant. The progenitor that you are talking about was my great-great-great paternal grandfather. Lucas couldn't help but facepalm at the situation. At first, he thought that the boy in front of him was just a progenitor fanboy. Even though villain, the progenitor was a legend. Some people, still in this day and age, worship him like a god. There are forums and discussion groups one can find on the internet that are nothing but a bunch of people worshipping the Demon King. Exactly like some people used to applaud Hitler's beliefs even long after his death. It's not hard to come across such fans. Lucas believed Sam to be one such fanboy. He thought that Sam was just trying to recruit him into his cult. However, Lucas quickly dismissed those thoughts. First, the Academy performs a thorough search on every hero candidate. If someone is even the least bit suspicious, then they will instantly be rejected. Second, for the argument's sake, let's just say Sam somehow bypassed the Academy's search, no one would be stupid enough to openly declare that they are a fan of the progenitor. Especially no hero candidate inside the heart of heroes, the Academy City. Shaking his head, Lucas tried to make sense of the situation. After a while, Lucas went to two conclusions. 1. Either Sam is just insane or he's an attention craver. Second, he is actually telling the truth about him being the descendant of the progenitor. However, no matter how much Lucas looks at his second conclusion, it doesn't make sense. For starters, everyone knew that any relatives or descendants of the progenitor were killed after the last war. It was made sure that no one of his bloodline survived that cleansing. Secondly, even if some of his descendants were alive, and if Sam was really one of them, then he wouldn't be joining the Hero Academy. The Hero Academy is the heart of the Hero Association. Walking in here willingly is something no villain, even if it's the progenitor's descendant, would ever do. That's just insane. Wait. No, don't tell me. Although, as soon as he speculated that, a thought crossed Lucas' mind, causing him to widen his eyes. The descendant of the progenitor won't be joining the Hero Academy, unless he wants to strike at the heart of the Hero Association. Don't tell me, the villain who had been causing the uproar in Academy City is him. Lucas lifted his head to look at the black-haired boy, and he found that the latter was also looking at him. When their gaze met, Sam's lips curled up into a smirk and he slowly opened his mouth. Yes, your speculation is correct. I was the one who did all those things you've been hearing about in Academy City. So you are saying the villain in hiding is a student in the first year of Academy City? A red-headed man asked to confirm. Yes. I'm absolutely certain. The one who said that was Eagleclaw. Currently, Eagleclaw was in his costume and he was visiting an old friend of his. He was sitting on a couch in front of a red-headed man. They both were in what looked like a living room of a mansion. The red-headed man was none other than Eve Dragonheart, the family head of the Dragonheart clan and one of the strongest people walking on this planet. It was his mansion and it was his living room where they both were sitting. Eve was slouching back on his couch chair in comfort while Eagleclaw's face was devoid of any colors. Ednel.co Eve had known Eagleclaw, or rather Raven Black, the real identity of Eagleclaw, till his days in the Academy. Eve has seen him through the ups and downs of his life. He has seen him get through harsh times and good times alike. Yet, never in his years of knowing Raven did he look so exhausted. Although he had his mask on, Eve could still see the faint traces of dark circles below his eyes. And even though Eagleclaw was trying his best to act normal, Eve could see through his act. He knew his friend was hurting inside. And how can he not hurt? The love of his life was murdered by a villain. A villain who is still out there somewhere. Dragonhearts are said to have a steel will and iron hearts, but after seeing his friend in that state, even Eve's heart was aching. But regardless of that, what Eagleclaw was suggesting was not only impossible but impractical. After a short pause, Eve opened his mouth to speak. Raven, are you still investigating the murder of your fiancé? Murder of my fiancé. That's all she was to you. She was your friend too, goddammit. Don't act like she was nothing to you. Eagleclaw instantly but burst out in anger. Letting out a soft sigh, Eve regretted his choice of words. I'm sorry, Raven, I didn't mean it like that. But weren't you asked from Star Super to leave this case to him? Didn't he ask you to cease your investigation? Just have some faith in him, trust Star Super, Star Super. That bastard is nowhere to be seen from last week. God knows where he is. How can I trust someone who is not here? Eagle Claw followed up with another outburst. Eve was about to refute and calm him down, but before he could do so, Eagle Claw spoke up again. And besides, my claim is not baseless. I know it's someone from the first year of warrior class. Not only that, but I also have a few names in mind for who the villain in hiding could be. Because, unlike Star Super, I was actually doing my job. Chapter 45-45. Pain of losing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Because, unlike Star Super, I was actually doing my job. After listening to that, Eve wanted to retort, but he kept his silence. He knew his friend was going through a tough time. The pain of losing someone you love. Eve was very familiar with that kind of pain. He knew that losing Rose had taken a toll on Eagle Claw. That's why Eve played along with him. Okay, let's say what you're claiming is correct. A villain is really stupid enough to step foot in the heart of the Hero Association. Why would they risk initiating a war? That was a valid point. Although Academy City is very thorough with its background check on people who wish to enter it. Sometimes criminals and villains succeed in breaking through their security. But never in the history of Academy City did they ever perform any villainy after stepping through the gates of this city. Usually, the villains and criminals who manage to get past Academy City's background check either get here to give themselves a new head start and turn over their life, or they get here to spy on heroes. But none of them dare to commit a crime here. The reason is simple. Villains can't risk starting a full-fledged war with heroes. Academy City is the heart of the Hero Association, but with a good plan and perfect timing along with some real powerful supervillains fighting on the front lines, it's not that difficult to hit Academy City with an attack they can't defend. However, the real battle will come afterward. When heroes all around the world will start hunting villains for bringing harm to the Academy City. And that's precisely what they are discussing all around the world. After the attacks in the past few months, the heroes have started discussing this matter. Be Novcom. Yes, all around the world heroes are addressing this matter and demanding to start a war. Because in their eyes, they think that the villain responsible for the attacks in the past few months is backed by the Villain Association. They don't know that it was just an 18-year-old boy dealing with his love life and some really irritating people. And although Star Super had already announced that it was the progenitor who was behind the attack, people in the council have a conflicted opinion about it. Some of them don't believe that the progenitor has returned, and the rest of them only believe because they trust Star Super's judgment. And outside the Hero Council, almost no one knows about that matter. That was one of the reasons Star Super has gone to confirm his speculation. And if his fear turns out to be true, then Star Super will reveal the news to the world. Eve, who although not in the council still got this news beforehand because of his influence, doesn't believe that progenitor has returned. And that would be any sane person's reaction too. What if you were told that Hitler has returned? Would you believe it? So Eve believes that it was a villain backed up by the Villain Association who committed these crimes in the Academy City. And that's why he asked Eagle Claw for his opinion. However, it looked like even Eagle Claw had no idea regarding this matter either. I don't know, Eagle Claw said. But I do know it's someone from the first year of warrior class. After the continuous claims from his childhood friend, Eve finally decided to ask for validation. Okay, why do you think it's a first-year student who's behind these crimes? And do you really think a first-year student, who must be 18 years or less, can have this kind of power? I mean, he murdered Rose, and she had the phasing ability. Eve said. Yes. I know. And still, I believe it's someone from the first year. And as for my evidence, Rose started behaving strangely after the entrance test. Eagle Claw replied with certainty. Seeing his confidence, Eve decided to ask further. Strangely. What do you mean by that? Eve questioned with an intrigued face. She was the invigilator in the entrance exam. After that day she started behaving strangely. She would not answer my messages and not pick up my calls. And even when I tried to meet up with her, she would just make some excuses. No matter how hard he tried to conceal it, Eve could tell by the trembling voice of Eagle Claw that he was on the verge of breaking down. However, Eve had to ask the question he had in his mind. Are you sure that she wasn't just in an affair? Eve asked hesitatingly. No. She would never. It didn't even take a single second for Eagle Claw to deny the accusations against his lover. But no matter how hard he tried, he was just a man grieving his lover's death. A single accusation like that was enough to break him. Tears started coursing down his eyes. Eagle Claw took off his mask and revealed his face because a hero shouldn't cry. He wasn't Eagle Claw right now, he was Raven. He had disheveled black hair and brown eyes. And under those brown were dark circles, indicating that he hadn't got a good night's sleep for days if not weeks. I'm sorry, Raven. I shouldn't have said something like that. Sighing, Eve apologized. Face-palming, Raven tried to calm himself down. After a while, he shook his head and stood up. I came here to ask for your help, he said while standing up. But it seems like you aren't interested in helping me anyway. No. It's not like I don't want to help you, Raven, but Star Super has strictly forbidden anyone from investigating this case any further. Eve tried to justify while standing up himself. Again with that bastard. Kicking the center table of the living room, Raven shouted. He doesn't even care about us. If he cared, he would be here with us. Without waiting for Eve to reply to that comment, Raven took his eagle mask and headed to the main exit of the mansion. Wait. Eve tried to stop him from behind. Tell me, who are you suspecting to be the culprit? Why do you care? Without even bothering to turn around, Raven walked through the living room to exit the mansion. Left alone, Eve couldn't help but sigh again. He was really worried about his childhood friend. He could just hope that Raven would be wise enough to not do anything stupid. Even though Eve didn't really believe that the progenitor had returned, even Eve had to admit that the villain who had been causing uproar in the Academy City was dangerous. Killing someone who can't be touched physically like Rose Bluespring was a feat not many could achieve. Just please be safe, Raven. However, unknown to Eve, Eagle Claw was already planning to do something he shouldn't. He was planning to investigate the person he had in mind to be the culprit behind all the villainy happening these days in Academy City. Are we going back? Rick asked the man in the cape beside him. Yes, Star Super replied. Let's go back. Currently, they were in the deepest part of the dungeon. Even after Star Super confirmed his speculation, they kept going deeper to find anything that could be useful in the coming days. But before we go back, let's visit an old friend. At those words from Star Super, a frown formed on Rick's face. A friend of yours? Who's that? Rick asked. She's a fortune teller, Star Super said with a little hesitation. Fortune teller. Didn't take you for a superstitious person. Do you believe in astronomy too? Haha. Rick joked as he laughed. Star Super only rolled his eyes before explaining. It's not superstition, he said in order to defend himself. She can see the future. Another one with an ability to see the future. Rick questioned with a distrustful voice. I think it's been established that no one can completely determine the future. I know, the future is not set and it's always changing. But if anyone can be said to be an exception to that rule, then it's her. After saying that much, Star Super turned around and started walking toward the exit. Although Rick wanted to retort, he just followed Star Super without making a fuss. Star Super was Rick's childhood hero, and although Rick didn't believe in fortune-telling abilities, he believed in Star Super. Information available on precognition/fortune telling, the power to perceive future events. Power of chronovision and extrasensory perception. Variation of psionics. Opposite to retrocognition. Not the same thing as event experiencing and clairvoyance. Users can foresee possible futures and observe what may happen. As knowledge of the future invariably causes that future to change, visions of the future are subject to frequent shifting. While not being able to select futures or travel through time, these visions may assist in possible courses of action. As mentioned in the aforementioned point, the future's not set. Time is like a river and free will can change the future. Chapter 46-46. A Step Toward Destruction. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. 3 hours passed and the dueling practice finally ended. More than half of the students ended up leaving on the stretcher. The few who were lucky, durable, or skilled enough to not sustain any serious injury were asked to take a break and chill out in the school cafe for the day. "I'm so not doing it ever again," Drake mumbled as he sipped his soft drink. "I know, right? My back hurts." "You just kept going on and on." "What happened to you today, Drake?" said Robin while stretching her back. "Guys. You both are so misleading," Anthony interrupted the couple's talk with a "please stop talking" glare. Drake and Robin went against each other. Robin was on the defensive the whole match and Drake kept on attacking her. In the end, Robin tried to get on the offensive side but the girlfriend and boyfriend duo ended up exhausting all of their stamina. In the end, they both were on the verge of passing out, so karma declared the match a draw. So right now Anthony, Robin, and Drake were sitting in the school's cafe. "I hope Kiera and Sam are okay," said Robin with a worried face. "Yeah, their duel was intense," commented Drake. "Tell me about it." Robin crossed her arms and leaned back on her chair. "There's always this tension between them these days." "Indeed," Drake nodded. "They were fine at the entrance exam and some days after the academy started. I don't know what happened." Anthony's ears perked up at that. "You both known them since the entrance exam?" Interested, Anthony asked. "Sam and Kiera?" Robin answered. "Yes, we met them during the exam." "I see," Anthony touched his chin. "Well, there's clearly a tension between them." "You are right about that one." However, before any one of them could further initiate the conversation, Drake's eyes fell on the entrance. The entrance to the cafe had just opened up and Sam walked in. He was not alone though, he was walking in with Lucas. What was weirder was the fact that Sam had his arm around Lucas' shoulder. "That's an odd duo," Drake commented. Drake wasn't the only one, all the students who noticed them were also taken aback by this pair. Although the class was fairly new, every student had already judged each other and made an impression on their classmates in their minds. Lucas' impression on everyone was not good, to say the least. Everyone knows that Lucas was not only rude but he also looks down on people. He made that very clear during the freshman representative speech when he practically challenged everyone for the first place. So to see him walking with someone was a shock to everyone who noticed them. And that wasn't the only weird thing. Lucas was so submissive to the boy walking beside him. All his arrogance and haughtiness were nowhere to be seen. It is indeed an odd duo, but why is Lucas sweating so much? Anthony frowned. Does he only have a problem with me? Is that why he's so rude to me all the time? It isn't only you dude, Robin consoled. It's everyone he has a problem with. As they were talking among themselves, they noticed Sam splitting up with Lucas. Lucas went to sit at the corner window seat as a waiter walked up to him to take his order. Sam, on the other hand, started heading where Anthony, Drake, and Robin were sitting. "Yo," Sam greeted everyone as he walked up to them. "How are you now, Sam?" Robin asked as the black-headed boy sat down. "You were injured quite heavily during your duel." Oh yes, I'm all right. I heard about the duel between you two. How are you both? Sam replied with a concerned question himself. I'm just exhausted. Robin rested her chin on her hand and closed her eyes. And I will never participate in a duel ever again. Drake slammed his hands on the table. Calm down, mate, Sam slightly smiled while taking his hand off the table. The exercise was good. It gave us real combat experience. I don't have a problem with duel exercise itself, but rather its nature, said Robin while shaking her head. Its nature, what does that mean? Sam arched his eyebrows. You know, since we have to hold back our powers while competing against other students. Ever after Robin's explanation, Sam had a frown on his face. Holding back their powers is one of the most difficult tasks you can ask an ability user to perform at their will. An ability user's brain is biologically on a different level than a normal person. For instance, an ability user can perceive danger far more ahead of time than a normal person. If that wasn't enough, it is said that a 17-year-old's ability users' problem-solving skills can be more refined than an adult crime detective. Ability users, even the lowest ranked ones, are far more superior in intelligence than most normal people. However, they don't only have boons, they have curses too. Sometimes, ability users have weaknesses based on their abilities. For example, an ability that would grant someone a fire elemental body will also restrict its user to get in touch with a water body. Or let's say, an ability that grants its user a mutation. A user that transforms into a beast of unfathomable strength. But a beast who loses its mind upon transformation. Sometimes these weaknesses aren't exactly weaknesses but more of a limitation. For example, Anthony's heat vision temporarily turns him blind while it's in use. Robin's telekinesis deals a great pain to her mind when her ability is active. Drake can get heated up if he uses his ability for too long. Limitations like that. Needless to say, limitations can be overcome over time. What they can't overcome with time is their biology. Their brain is biologically built in such a way that it instantly thinks about ending a threat when it identifies something as one. Their danger perception is on another level, and with that gift to sense danger comes a mindset to eliminate the source of that danger. So when an ability user determines someone as a threat, it's very hard for them to control their instincts. Needless to say, they then demonstrate their ability at max potential. And when they do that, it is very hard for them to control that. Sam, for obvious reasons, was an exception to this rule. His mind and body were fully under his control. That means there were absolutely no involuntary actions going on in his body. He handles all of them subconsciously. What that means is, that if he wishes for his heart to stop, it will stop. Unless his subconscious orders it to beat again. That was also the truth behind his true immortality. Not many people in this world are truly immortal despite what they say. Only a person who can experience a true death can be called immortal, or unkillable. The rest of them are just killable immortals. Sam was the former one. Even if you destroy his body, burn it, melt it, or cut it into pieces, he will just come back. His subconscious will just order it to regenerate and his body will follow. So unless someone has an existence eraser, Sam can't be killed. Well, either that or someone breaks his will. Despite what his actions and mentality suggest, Sam is an 18-year-old boy. His will can break. So if you break his will to exist, he will die. Of course, no one knows about this weakness. Those who knew it are dead. So, in short, Sam's body is fully under his control, and he never had to experience any problems when controlling his powers. His ability can cover an area as big as Academy City. If every time he had killed someone without the proper control over his ability, the whole city would have died at least 3 times by now. So by default, when Robin mentioned the discomfort an ability user experiences while trying to hold back their ability, Sam could only frown. Of course, he knew about that, but hearing someone complain over such a trivial thing when he had been dealing with such difficult situations for the past few weeks made his mouth sour. At that moment, Anthony spoke up like a good diligent student he was. Yeah, but there will be instances when you'll have to hold back your powers. This might seem useless now, but it could prove a good experience in the future. At those words from Anthony, both Drake and Robin sighed. Even Sam, who was trying to build a disguise of a good student, couldn't help but sigh. How simple-minded thinking does he have? Did anyone watch the last episode of Fate that aired last night? Shaking his head, Sam changed the topic and led the conversation toward anime talk. Yes. Saber of Black was too OP in that. Meh, he only won because of plot armor, or else Lancer of Red would have crushed him. Yes, Sam was an anime fan. At first, he only started watching those things because he was trying to fit in between these simple-minded teenagers. But as he kept watching, he developed a liking for it. Maybe he was really just an 18-year-old boy, despite what his actions may suggest. Maybe if he was born under any other circumstances, but it was already too late for thoughts like that. Today, he has taken a step that will bring chaos to the world as they knew it. A step toward destruction. Destruction of his own or of the world. Only time may tell. Chapter 47. Fortune teller, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Just. Why are we here again? Rick facepalmed. He has been traveling with Star Super for weeks now. It took them 6 days to locate that dungeon that the progenitor used as his dwelling during his last days. And just when Rick thought he would finally get to go home, Star Super flew him to some other location. Yes, Star Super flew him. Rick was a 35-year-old grown-ass man, and Star Super carried him in a princess carry position and flew him across the globe. Could it get any more ridiculous? Poor Rick. At first, Rick was pretty excited about the whole deal when Star Super asked him to come along with him on his mission. Rick had always been a fan of Star Super since his childhood. Since the young age of 7, he always tried to walk the path of righteousness like Star Super. Star Super was his childhood hero. Rick even had his action figure. He still remembers how he used to hug that action figure to sleep every night. So, obviously, when Star Super asked him to come along, Rick instantly agreed. Yes, the princess carry position was strange, but Rick's excitement overwhelmed his embarrassment. However, as the time passed, his excitement grew dull by the day. And by the end of day 6, the excitement he had on the first day was nowhere to be seen. Traveling with Star Super was hell. Because Star Super had superhuman stamina, it was impossible to keep up with him. Although he was offered piggyback rides, Rick swiftly refused them. He didn't want to feel more embarrassed than he already was. Not only that, but he also had to face a fact about his childhood hero. That was that Star Super had the loudest snore he had ever heard. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Star Super snorts so hard that it can even wake up the dead. So not only Rick was exhausted during the days, but he was also sleepless during the nights. His face, which was as red as a cherry on the first day, was now devoid of any color. And right now, blue lines were clearly visible on Rick's forehead along with the dark circles under his eyes. He was standing beside Star Super and they both were standing in front of what looked like a big castle. This castle, according to Star Super, was their last destination before they could return home. Rick took out his cap and put it on his bald head. Although Rick was bald and a bit chubby, he was by no means ugly. He had deep blue eyes and a face that many women in the past had described as cute. You can call Rick a living, walking teddy bear. After seeing that his obvious question was ignored by the man in the cape beside him, Rick irritatingly asked again. What are we doing here? He spoke through his chubby cheeks. Sigh, letting out a sigh, Star Super followed to answer his travel mate's obvious question. We, my friend, are here to meet the fortune teller I told you about. Still on to that, Rick shook his head before frowning his eyebrows. Still, why are we in front of an abandoned castle in the middle of nowhere? They really were in the middle of nowhere. They were in the Sahara deserts. What unsettled Rick more than anything was the fact that there was an abandoned castle in the middle of a freaking desert. Why? Why would someone build this here in the first place anyway? And most of all, why were they here? Because this is obviously where she lives, you dumb. Said Star Super in a "didn't I make that obvious enough" tone. Tisk, Rick clicked his tongue. Could have put it in a nicer way. Although he was vexed, what could he do in front of a 6 feet 9 inches tall muscular guy whose bicep was big enough to cover his head? Every second they were together, Rick was getting disillusioned and the image of his childhood hero that he had made up in his mind was crumbling. If only he would have refused to take this trip with Star Super. Maybe, just maybe, he could have lived on with the perfect image of his childhood hero in his mind. Just as Rick was cursing himself, the two giant gates of the castle made a loud metal scratching against metal sound before they started opening up inwards. Soon, the inside scenery of the castle was visible. With just one peek Rick could tell that the inside and outside look of the castle were heaven and earth apart. The outside of the castle looked like it hadn't been taken much care of. The walls were in dire need of plaster and polishing while the gates and fences were rusty. But on the inside, there was a garden leading up to the inner main door. The garden was well taken care of by a professional and even the cobblestone path was clean. Come on, like a puppy, Star Super called out to Rick as he went in. Tisk, clicking his tongue in frustration again, Rick followed. After walking down the cobblestone path, the duo reached up to the main gate. There was no one to welcome them by the outer gates, so did they open up by themselves. This whole ordeal was giving him an eerie feeling to Rick, but he kept his mouth shut out of fear of embarrassment. As soon as they walked up to the inner entrance, Star Super knocked on the door thrice. Knock. Just like the gates, the door instantly opened up all by itself too. Seeing this, Rick couldn't hold back anymore. Okay, what's going on? Rick asked. Why is this place so horror movie-like? Haha. Star Super cracked up, making Rock feel more frustrated if anything before he answered. Well, she likes it dramatic. I'm sorry, what? Who likes what? As if waiting for that cue from Rick, the candles that were lighting up inside suddenly blew up, leaving the duo in the dark. Slam. At the next moment, the door behind them slammed closed and a chill breeze went past them. Arthur, I'm starting to get scared. Without bothering to reply to his anxious friend, Star Super just kept his silence and waited for the dramatic entrance to wrap up. Why have you come here, you foolish mortals? A chilling voice, colder and sinful than anything that Rick had ever heard, resounded throughout the castle's entry. Leave now or I shall claim your life. The voice declared. I don't think we are welcomed here, Arthur. Star Super just kept his silence and put his hand in his pocket. So you refuse to leave? Fine then. As soon as the voice said that, the temperature in the whole atmosphere dropped and chills ran through Rick's spine. Arthur. Man, let's just leave. He tried to beg the man in a cape but to no avail. However, Arthur just ignored Rick as he was doing up until now and took his hand out of his pocket. In his hand was a chocolate bar. Rick was about to retort why Star Super was taking out a bar of chocolate to eat now of all times, but before he could say anything, Arthur's next actions left him stupefied. Catch! Shouted Arthur as he threw the chocolate bar in the air. Before the bar could fall down to the ground, a black shadow appeared into existence and disappeared along with the bar. Wah! What was that? Startled, Rick shouted. His question was soon answered when the black shadow moved into the light. It was a girl, seemingly no more than 13.14 years old. She had black hair and brown eyes with pale skin and a small adorable triangular face. On her face was an angry frown and her cheeks were puffing out in a pout. Why are you here, Star Super? she said while chewing on the chocolate that Arthur threw. Is this a way to greet an old friend, Heya? With an amused smile, Star Super asked. I asked, why the hell are you here? The girl named Heya eyed Star Super with a threatening gaze as she repeated herself. Oof. Don't scare me like that. Do you know how fragile my heart is? Putting a hand on his chest, Star Super dramatically expressed. A bulging nerve appeared on the girl's face, but before she could open her mouth to utter anything, Star Super spoke up. Okay, jokes aside, I'm here to ask you for a favor. Knitting her eyebrows in a furrow at those words, Heya slightly tilted her head before speaking. What kind of favor? If you're here to ask me about your children's future, I'm gonna whoop your ass. Not minding her threat, Star Super replied while rolling his eyes. Shut up, Heya. Now listen, I'm here because I doubt that, no, I know that the progenitor has returned. Star Super mustered up the most serious tone he could as he said those words. He's back in this world. Beads of sweat appeared on Heya's forehead as her eyes widened at those words. You mean to say, my master has returned? Chapter 48. Giving up humanity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That's so not true. I know Lancer could have won if it wasn't for the plot armor. And I'm saying that wasn't plot armor. That was just Lancer's bad luck. Drake, babe, are you stupid? What is plot armor if not luck? But I'm saying it wasn't plot armor because it was Lancer's bad luck. Lancer's bad luck was Saber's good luck, you dumb fuck. Arguments like this between Robin and Drake were happening since the moment Sam brought up the topic. They were currently sitting in the living room of their dorm mansion while Sam was facepalming. He was kind of regretting bringing up this topic now because Robin and Drake were arguing back and forth since they were in the Academy's cafe. Anthony, who was also sitting there with an amused smile while watching the couple fight, suddenly saw Sam facepalming. He misunderstood Sam's action and thought he was worried about Kiera. Seeing that, Anthony spoke up. Sam, are you okay? Robin and Drake fell quiet at those words from Anthony and eyed Sam themselves. Sam, on the other hand, didn't reply. His face was still buried in his hand. Robin, who was sitting closest to Sam, shook his hand. Ha! Yeah, startled, Sam asked while bringing his hand down from his face. I asked, are you okay? Anthony repeated himself. You must be worried about Kiera, right? Sam was about to deny his concern but instantly he changed his mind. Yeah, I think I went overboard, Sam replied in a worried tone. I hope she's fine. While we are at that, I wanted to ask, how did you even win against Kiera? Drake inquired in a genuine curious tone. Before Sam could answer his insensitive question, Robin pinched his cheek. Don't mind this dumb head, it wasn't your fault, the Academy shouldn't allow duels in the first place. Robin said, trying her best to console Sam. Although I'm in support of the Academy's decision, I do agree this wasn't a good time for students to engage in duels too. The one who said that was Anthony. He was trying to make Sam feel better too. After all, Sam was the first person who called him his friend, so seeing Sam so down was not pleasant for Anthony either. Mustering up a light kind smile, Sam nodded. Before he could speak up, however, the door to the living room opened up. Hey ya guys. A black-headed girl entered. I heard you all had dueling exercises today. Behind her entered another girl with snowy white hair. Yes, I heard that too. Are any of you hurt? I can patch you up in a second. Without giving anyone a window to reply to that offer, a burly tall guy with light brown hair entered. Come on Syrah, they are men. And true men embrace the wounds on their body as medals. The brown-haired man spoke, in his eyes one could literally see the fire blazing. But not everyone here is a man, you meathead. The white-haired girl named Syrah spoke with a pout. There's also Robin. These people who made an appearance just now were the new dorm mates of Sam, Anthony, Drake, Robin, and Kiera. Including Rebecca, who also lives with them now, there were 8 people living in this mansion. Although the limit has yet to reach its cap, it seems like no one new will be coming to live with them. The white-haired girl was named Sira Ishta and she was a healer. She could heal an injury by making the injured drink her blood. The black-haired girl was named Lucy Griffin and she was a speedster. Her class was initiator and she belonged to a big family. The brown-haired muscleman was named Adam Stealth. And despite his burly appearance, he was also an initiator with an ability to switch places with any target. They all were quite good with some really useful abilities, so, of course, Sam had his eyes on all of them. It's just been 2 days since they started living together, but everyone seemed to get along quite well. "We're fine, Sira. Besides, as Adam said, we are men. And men can endure this much." Drake voiced up. Despite his thin figure, pretty face and shoulder-long red hair which he usually ties into a ponytail, giving him a feminine look, Drake had this huge masculinity. "Indeed." Adam shouted, firing up already excited Drake even more. Everyone couldn't help but heave a sigh at that interaction. "Well, as long as everyone is okay," Lucy said before taking a spot on the couch. "True, I am glad too," said Sira as she slouched back into the couch beside Lucy too. "So, what were you all talking about?" Adam asked as he sat on a chair himself. "Sam and Kiera had a duel today. Sam won but Kiera is still in the medical room in the academy. Apparently she has yet to wake up." Robin explained, to which everyone expressed their shock. "Wait, Kiera lost? Wasn't she an S. rank potential? How did she lose to a mere A. rank?" Lucy asked with a curious face. "A mere A. rank, huh? Ouch. My heart." Sam placed a hand on his chest and acted to sulk. "No. I didn't mean it like that." Lucy instantly raised her hand as she tried to justify herself. "I'm kidding." Sam waved his hand before laughing it off. "To be honest, I was wondering the same thing too. How did you defeat her, Sam?" Anthony joined in with a question. After waiting for a bit, Sam decided to open his mouth. "Actually, I defeated her because she got careless." "Careless? How?" Robin asked. "Well, you all couldn't have seen it because the mist must have been blocking your vision, but she froze my legs to the ground. In short, she rendered me immobile." "Then how did you get out of that situation?" Luke asked, and it seemed like he spoke the words on everyone's mind. "I didn't. I thought I would lose, so I tried to stall it as much as I could, before I noticed that she was closing in on me." "She was trying to close the distance herself," Sam said before taking a pause. "If she wanted, she could have just used some long-ranged attack and I would have lost. But she decided to end me in close range. That's when she lost. But we saw her sending a water clone in the mist too." "How did you know who was the real one? The real Kiera?" Anthony asked with his interest piqued. "Because where else would a snake strike if not from behind?" Sam thought that with a smirk, but he didn't voice his thoughts. "I just got lucky," he said with a shrug. Tap. In a dorm room, a boy with unkempt light red hair was sitting on his desk, tapping the table in a rhythmic manner. The boy was, of course, Lucas Redwing. And from the looks of it, he was conflicted, as if he couldn't decide on something. Today, a boy came out of nowhere and declared himself to be the kin of progenitor. Lucas was so stunned that he didn't even have the chance to think straight. The boy offered Lucas unimaginable power, wealth, women, and everything he desires. Yes, Lucas was offered everything today. In return, the boy asked for but one thing. The boy asked for Lucas' humanity. Although Lucas doesn't know what the boy meant by humanity, it couldn't be a good thing. It felt like Lucas was making a deal with a devil. The boy gave Lucas the time to think about the offer until midnight. Once the midnight arrives, the will come for his answer. Anxious, Lucas looked at the clock and found the numbers, 10:40 p.m., displaying on the digital screen of the clock on his table. The midnight was about to fall and Lucas was still conflicted about his opinion. He even thought about going to a hero for help. By hero, he obviously thought of Star Super, but he stopped himself after remembering the warning he got from the black-headed boy. The boy claiming himself to be the kin of progenitor warned Lucas about not informing any heroes about this matter. To be clear, his words were something like this. Remember, if you dare try to inform anyone, including heroes about me, then your head would explode. Ha ha ha. Although one could interpret that as a joke, Lucas knew that was a threat. A clear warning. No hero could save him from this. He was all alone. Just like in his childhood, he was still weak. Even after all this power in the palm of his hands, he was still so powerless. Hick. Hick. Tears started streaming down his face when he finally realized how weak he truly was in this situation. He had no option but to oblige. He had no will to act upon, he could only obey. Knock, Lucas, dinner is served. Come eat, you haven't eaten anything the whole day. A feminine voice came from outside the room's door. It was Lucas' doormate. Even after everyone in the academy considered Lucas a jerk, she was the only one who treated him normally. Usually Lucas would feel irritated even by hearing her voice, but today it gave him a strange sense of tranquility. Rubbing the tears off his face, Lucas put on his best smile before answering, "Coming." Chapter 49-49. The Wrath General. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In a big guest room, two guys were sitting on a large extravagant sofa. One of them was in a golden tight body costume which displayed his great physique, while the other was a little chubby guy who seemed like he was sitting in a murder trial. They were Arthur, the Star Super, Wilburn and Rick Sanchez. In front of them was haughtily sitting a girl who seemed no more than 13 years of age. Both Star Super and the girl were sipping on the tea from the teacups in their hands. Although Rick was also offered the tea, he was barely holding back the contents in his stomach from coming out from all the tension in the room, so he refused the offer. Deafening silence was filling up the room and the atmosphere was so heavy that Rick was on the verge of choking. Poor thing had been sweating buckets. Unable to bear the silence anymore, he decided to muster up the courage and speak his mind by voicing the question that's been puzzling him. "I'm sorry, I have to ask, did she call the progenitor her master?" Rick questioned in a "what the hell" tone. "Yes, she did." "Yes, I did." The two simultaneous replies sent Rick into silence once again. The courage that he had mustered up was nowhere to be found. Letting out a soft sigh, Rick stole a glance at the girl sitting in front of her. The girl was dressed in black gothic dress that suited his sickly pale skin and complemented her blue eyes and small doll-like face. She had black hair and a dignified aura that didn't suit her age. "Stop staring," she said with her face behind the teacup, making Rick instantly shift his gaze elsewhere. Ahem, lightening the atmosphere with a cough, Star Super spoke. "Do you know what demons are, Rick? And I don't mean mythological demons." Before Arthur could finish up, Rick cut him off. Yes, I know. I've studied it all my life, of course I know." Offended for some reason, Rick replied. "Demons are the creatures that the progenitor mutated and took them under his control. He created an army of those creatures and conquered the whole world. Until you came and freed the world of his reign by ending those demons." When Rick mentioned the last part, he had an undying respect for Star Super clearly hidden behind his words. Indeed, Star Super nodded in approval. Demons were just creatures, humans and animals alike, mutated by the progenitor to do his bidding. When he said that last part, Arthur looked at the girl sitting in front of them. That was a hint. A hint that Rick quickly caught up on. "Wait." In shock, Rick exclaimed. "You mean to say..." Tap cutting off Rick was the sound of teacup being put on the coaster on the table. It was the girl. I think I should introduce myself, she said. My name is Heya. I'm the Wrath General. Those were simple words, but the amount of shock that they dealt to Rick was incomprehensible. It is a widely known historical fact that the progenitor had 7 generals named after the 7 sins: pride, envy, lust, wrath, gluttony, sloth, and greed. These generals commanded 7 armies and helped the progenitor rule over the world. Each one of the 7 armies was different. And each one of the generals were bestowed several, calamity, rank, abilities. They were unstoppable. Or at least they were supposed to be, until they were stopped by Star Super. Everyone thought that the 7 generals were dead, yet here this girl was openly announcing to be the Wrath Generals. What's more, Star Super was reacting to it as if he knew all that already. Rick was confused beyond words. Why was Star Super not attacking her? Why was she not attacking them? Aren't demons supposed to be programmed to kill humans? And most of all, why were they drinking tea like old friends? However, before Rick could put any of those questions into words, Star Super decided to explain things. Rick, I know you may have many questions, but for now, let's focus on our main goal. Hearing that, Rick calmed down but decided to ask him about the matter later. Right now, Rick was really admiring White Walker. He couldn't understand how White Walker kept up with Star Super's secrets all these years. Yes, White Walker used to accompany Star Super on his missions before his death. In a way, Rick was a, hopefully temporary, replacement for White Walker. So Heya, as I was saying, do you know anything about it? Star Super questioned. Anything about what? Heya replied with a, I'm so done, expression on her face. About the progenitor's return. Star Super spoke in a frustratingly slow tone. As I've been saying for the past few hours, that's impossible. Then why were the beasts made by him started reproducing? I don't know. I admit it's a strange behavior for a demon to exhibit, but the progenitor is dead. You killed him yourself all those centuries ago. Look, my daughter was kidnapped a few days ago and I wasn't able to locate the kidnapper even after using my divine sight. There's only one man in existence who can challenge my authority, and that's the progenitor of demons. Look pal, I'm sorry about your daughter and all, but are you sure you aren't just getting old and losing your powers? Sigh. After a disappointed, defeated sigh, Arthur tried to converse once again. I believe he has returned. Again with this. Heya retorted. Look, progenitor is dead and he can't come back. And even if he does, I'll know 'cause I'm fucking connected to him. How do we know you're not lying? The one who raised that question was none other than Rick. And that question earned him a threatening gaze from Heya. If only looks could kill. Stop it, Rick. You don't know who you're accusing, said Star Super. Yeah. Then tell me. Who is she and why is she alive? Aren't all the generals supposed to be dead? Rick snapped back, clearly he was at the end of his rope. After a short pause, Star Super decided to spill the truth. She's the Wrath General and she was one of the reasons we won against the progenitor. The progenitor trusted her the most, but she betrayed him and sided with us, giving us a chance to deal a fatal blow. Those words did anything but clear up the confusion that Rick was facing. Wait, what? She betrayed him. How is that even possible? A demon cannot betray the progenitor. That was the main reason they were so deadly to fight against, because they were not afraid to sacrifice themselves for their master's win. Hearing those words, Heya couldn't help but scoff. You speak a lot about an era which you weren't even born to witness. Resting her chin on her hand, Heya spoke. I studied about that era a lot. Rick retorted. Yeah, I liked White Walker more than this guy. Shut up Heya, and you too Rick, shut up. Heya was special, she broke progenitor's mind control and freed herself. Although Rick wanted to question that last statement, he still followed Star Super's order and kept his silence. Shaking her little head, Heya picked up her teacup again. That's all. No, as I said, I would like to ask a favor from you, leaning forward on his spot, Star Super uttered. Favor? I gave you my time, what else could possibly be more valuable than a talk with yours truly? Haughtily, Heya replied. With a blank face after a few seconds, Arthur replied. Despite what you think about my opinion of Progenitor's return, I want you to use your ability in tell us our future. TSK, will you not disturb me for the next 50 years if I comply? I won't, I promise. Finee, standing up from her spot, Heya shut her eyes. As soon as she closed her eyes, her feet started lifting up from the ground and in the next moment she was hovering in the air. She slowly crossed her legs and sat in the lotus position on nothing but air. What's going on? Rick asked with beads of sweat on his forehead. She's peeking into the future, Arthur replied calmly. However, Arthur's calm demeanor was soon shattered in the next moment when blood started dripping from Heya's nose. Is this normal? More anxious than ever before, Rick asked in worry again. No. This is certainly not normal. Before Rick could ask any more obvious and stupid question or Arthur could do anything to help the floating girl, Heya's body fell down on the ground. Instantly rushing up to her, Star Super lifted her head. With wide-shot eyes and worried voice, he asked. Heya. Are you okay? However, the girl's eyes were closed and she wasn't answering. Rick lifted her hand and checked up on her nerves before reporting. Her nerves are going weak, I think she's dying. Heya. Heya. Star Super called out her name while shaking her head that was in his arms. His crying out loud was halted when Heya opened her mouth. He's back. Why that you can't stop him, those were the last words she uttered before her body fell limp and her breathing stopped. She's dead. Chapter 50-50. I accept you are listening at novelfull.audio. It's already 11:36 p.m. Midnight was about to arrive and Lucas was anything but calm. He had eaten dinner and was now walking around in circles inside his dorm bedroom while chewing on the strings on his hoodie t-shirt. In all honesty, he wanted to refuse the boy's offer. He thought about it hard and long. However, no matter how much he thought about it, if he were to accept the boy's offer, he couldn't see himself surviving. Why? Because if the boy really was the kin of Progenitor as he claims himself to be and he's really going to make him one of the 7 generals, then it's a no-brainer that he's raising an army. An army much like how the Progenitor himself raised to conquer the world. However, Progenitor was killed along with his 7 generals by Star Super. He was sure that if this boy were to raise an army then he'll have to fight Star Super and there's no chance for him to be able to defeat Star Super. Lucas knew that if the boy really was the Progenitor then he would be killed and as his general, Lucas would be executed along with him. Lucas didn't want to die such a pathetic death. No, such fate is what Lucas will never accept. But what choice does he have? If he refuses, the boy will kill him. If he accepts, then Star Super will kill him. In stress, Lucas sat at his desk and opened his laptop. He quickly unlocked it and clicked on the browser, click. The sound of fingers tapping on the laptop's keyboard rang out in the atmosphere as he typed in his question. He was researching the Progenitor and his army. He found many articles and web pages and slowly scrolling through he decided to check them all thoroughly. After 10 minutes or so of continuous scrolling, the only real information he found about this topic was the information on demons. There was much research done on demons made by the Progenitor. Although the procedure was different, the end result was the same in all of them. The end result was that the demons were completely loyal to the Progenitor. They could kill themselves without the slightest bit of hesitation if it means contributing to the will of their master. They couldn't think for themselves. Although the demon generals were recorded to be smarter than normal demons, at the core they were the same. Leaning back on his chair, Lucas took a deep gulp. Will I become like them? Thoughtlessly pursuing a goal that isn't mine. Unable to think for myself. Lucas was finally grasping what the boy meant by giving up humanity. If he were to accept Sam's offer, then he will have no free will. He didn't want to give up his freedom, but he also didn't want to die. After all, a slave is far better than a dead man, is it not? Biting his lips as the feeling of helplessness sunk in, Lucas leaned back on his chair and closed his eyes. According to what he had read on the internet and what he had studied in the history classes, Star Super killed the progenitor and all of his bloodline. How? Then how on earth is one of his kin still alive? Did Star Super make a mistake? The greatest hero in the history of mankind made a mistake. A mistake this big, no less. However, no matter how much Lucas may curse Star Super or the heroes of that era, the fact of the matter is that there is a new progenitor walking on the face of this planet. And that new progenitor is about to raise an army of demons. And he wanted Lucas to be the first demon general. Wait. After thinking about it a little bit, the deal doesn't sound that bad. Chewing on his fingernail, the light red-haired boy thought in his mind. I mean, sure, I wouldn't have much of a free will, but I will be strong enough to defeat Anthony Wilburn maybe. Scratching his chin, Lucas thought out loud. Maybe I could kill him if I accept this deal. As he said that, a smile crept up on Lucas' face. Now from a third-person perspective, his hate about Anthony may seem a little unjustified, but Lucas had a valid reason for his grudge. However, in the next moment, he quickly came back to his senses. What am I even thinking? It's absurd. He slammed his hands on the desk. I'm not a killer. And I can't ally with the kin of the most sinful villain in all history. He voiced his determination out loud. NV. Is that your answer then? However, at that moment a voice resounded in his ears from the back. There was someone behind him. Standing there, watching him. Slowly with shaky movements, Lucas turned his neck around only to find a black-headed boy standing there with an amused smile. The boy was dressed in a casual dark blue open shirt over a white tee and black jeans. He had a handsome face but not dead-drop gorgeous. He had a lean build, not too muscular, not too skinny. Yes, no matter how one may look at him, the black-headed boy was just your normal good-looking teenager. That's it. But Lucas knew him for who he really was. Drops of sweat formed on Lucas' forehead and his eyes widened in alertness. His mind was ready to use his ability, but his instincts were telling him to not make any sudden moves. It's as if he knew in his gut that if he disobeys the black-haired boy in any way, he would die. He would die like all the other people who have been dying in Academy City. People will talk about him for a few days and heroes will use his death as an agenda to hype up the crowd and strengthen their beliefs in them. He knew that his existence would be rendered to the morning news the next day if he were to do anything reckless now. So he did what his instincts told him to. He submitted. He raised his hands and mustered up the calmest tone possible to speak in. How did you come inside? Hearing him asking a question, Sam's lips curled up into a smirk. Quite the brave one, aren't you? Sam said before answering the boy's question. I've got a phasing ability and a stealth ability. After that reply, there was no doubt in Lucas' mind. If anyone could be the progenitor, then it's him. One of the many abilities of the progenitor that he read about on the internet was the power to let him steal others' abilities. Seeing him fall into silence, Sam asked with a smirk plastered on his face. So, what have you decided? He asked. Will you accept my offer and become powerful or deny it and die? Sam wasn't hiding anything, he was quite blunt from the start, but this last sentence from him was not only a question but a threat. Not a warning, but a threat. Sam wasn't forcing him. He was giving Lucas a free choice. But even if one choice is to become a slave and the other is to die, then it couldn't be called a choice. It is as Lucas stated, it's far better to be a slave than to become a dead man. However, Lucas was still hesitating. The prize of free will in return for power was too much. And what's use is power when he couldn't use it for himself. As if reading his mind, Sam spoke up. I won't completely take away your free will. You can still act for yourself, but be ready to sacrifice yourself for me and my goal. And of course, you wouldn't be able to harm me in any way. A nerve twitched on Lucas' forehead. If that isn't taking away freedom, then what is? He wanted to ask, but he kept quiet. Also, if you refuse my offer, I would find another candidate, said Sam, his smirk slowly turning into a grin. Your sister would be a nice choice. At the mention of his sister, Lucas immediately looked up. Sam was wearing a wide grin from his ear to ear. As if he was enjoying it. If it was anyone else, he would have already killed the person mentioning his sister with such a cruel grin. But against Sam, his whole body felt weak. Clenching his fists and gritting his teeth, Lucas looked back down. Seeing his obedient demeanor, Sam's grin only grew wider. Good boy, he uttered. I was just kidding. I wouldn't hurt a child, unless you give me a reason to. Lucas' hands were trembling. No, his whole body was trembling. He wasn't angry. He was frustrated. He thought he had grown strong. He thought no one could hurt him now. He thought even though he couldn't overcome Starboy, he was still strong enough to defend himself and his little sister now. But, nothing has changed. He was still a child. He couldn't protect himself, let alone his sick sister. Besides, don't you want to take revenge on the one who rendered your precious little sister in that state? Sam narrowed his eyes and looked at the trembling boy sitting on his chair in front of him. Tack. He took slow steps and circled behind him. He lowered his body and whispered into his ears. To answer your question, yes. I can give you the power to kill Anthony Wilburn. Not now, not today, but if you accept my offer, I give you my word that you will get your revenge. Those words were the last thing that Lucas needed to concrete his decision. He was ready. Even though he won't have his freedom, he will at least be strong enough to protect his sister. One condition, Lucas said, his head still down. No harm will fall on my sister. I promise, straightening his back, Sam promised. Your sister will be safe even if the moon falls. After a short pause, Lucas finally gave his answer. I accept.